What's up and welcome to Fat Bear Week 2022, Day 4. I also wanted to say, look, there's members of my council that have joined us. And here, as always, this was what happened yesterday. I do want to give a small apology in that I did get a little bit heated. I have reined in that part of myself. So, I do maintain that 7487 isn't quite as bulbous as 32 Chunk. I will admit that I do think he is probably heavier and that his win, while I don't think he should be there, I think that that particular face-off is deserved. So I will take back and retract my comments from yesterday, kind of. Not all of them. But anyways, battered and bruised but not broken, 151 Walker has seen his fair share of fights. But can this rocky bareboa of Brooks River survive the grazering? Or is 128's resting fish face, assertive attitude, and superb supermom skills enough to strike down her opponent? Watch these two fat bears collide in today's matchup. Alright, so we have already looked at 151 Walker the other day, and so I'm not going to waste too much time, other than I did hold back this little piece of information, and that is that as a youngster, just if you want a bit to fill in the lore of who 151 Walker is, as a youngster, he was very playful, and he's since grown up, and now he's actually a very dominant bear. So we have a very dominant bear in our presence, which I think is a great matchup for 128 Grazer, who has a history of, attacking the bears larger than herself just to protect her cubs. So she's a very fierce mom. She truly loves her cubs. She'd do anything for them, and I think that that really, it lends to a very fighting spirit. And on top of that quality, these two have a very interesting history together in that 151 Walker was defeated by 128 Grazer in 2019, which I imagine had to sting a little bit, considering that 128 Grazer has a pretty spotty record, and she competed in 2015 and was eliminated in her first round against 273's cub. I imagine that was a little bit embarrassing to be eliminated by a cub. And then I guess she got busy for the next couple of years because she didn't participate again until 2019, so she makes her big comeback, gets to the semifinals, defeats Walker, and then she made it to the semifinals in 2020, and then last year she was defeated by a cub again, 132's cub. So let's take a look, and I mean, right off the bat, I think that they are kind of starting out in a similar sense in terms of from the progress perspective. I think they've got a similar starting point, but I think that it's quite obvious that Walker is just far bigger. He has, again, his beautifully rotund ass. You could probably just take it's basically a perfect circle. Walker is Walker. We all know what he looks like. But then compared to 28 Grazer, I think that he is pretty obviously fatter than her. She is not tiny by any means, don't get me wrong. From a trained, scholarly perspective, I can see that she's clearly very fluffy, and so I think that that gives her an extra little false dimension, whereas Walker is a little less fluffy. His hair is matted down a little bit, especially since he's near the falls. So I think that it's pretty obvious that 151 Walker is bigger. He looks more rotund. If you were to put them on a scale, his ass would probably be hanging off the edge, but even then it would still, register enough to probably create enough gravitational mass to open up a black hole. It's amazing. So I think that it's pretty obvious that 151 is bigger, and so I'm going to vote for 151. I don't agree with that result. I think that 151 Walker should be there right now. I think it's very obvious. I mean, at least to me. Look at this. Look at that versus that. Look at the face proportion. I go back to the face a lot because it's hard to tell with their legs, because you can't see the end of their legs very well, especially when they take pictures in rushing water. But look at the size of his nose. You can imagine, if you look at my mouse, it probably extends to like a diagonal somehow, I guess, from here to here. And so then proportionally, look how long his body is compared to hers. Look how much smaller. Look how much smaller. Her face probably extends there. Look how much smaller she is. I really don't see what the public is seeing. So 151 Walker, again, I feel like you've been robbed this year. This is really... I am very perplexed right now. I mean, she doesn't have a huge lead on him, but I'm still completely baffled right now. I really don't understand where this is coming from. Defending his title, 480 Otis the Goatus is back. With 4 crowns and a Lifetime Achievement Award, this efficient eater has been putting in his office hours, but is still hungry for more. But let's not put age before beauty too soon. Once petite, now plump, 901's bow-legged figure and bodacious berdonkadonk threatens to booty slam the competition. Will this dominant and daring Fat Bear Week debutant upset the beararchy by dethroning the king? Dichotomous decisions must be made. On to the analysis. 901 has already been, we've already taken a look at her earlier in the competition. And so I'm going to jump straight to 480 Otis, and I will say I'm a little bit disappointed in the description in that they broke the news for me, this little tidbit of information that he has 4 wins under his belt, which means that if you were to just pick a random year to see like who was the winner, there's a 50-50 chance you're going to get Otis. So I think that that's very impressive of him. But what's really interesting about Otis is that he has easily the most extreme record compared to any other bear, in that he has been the winner. And he went to the finals once and was defeated in the finals in 2015. But for all of the other years, in 2018, 2019, and 2020, he was eliminated in his first round. So it's like he either wins or he is kicked out immediately, which is like a really interesting dichotomy here. Like, we don't have any other bears with that kind of just polar opposite extremes in terms of results. I think it's pretty obvious when we just look at the bears right away, we can see that 901 is easily significantly fatter. 480 Otis, maybe he's dropping off. He is a little bit of an older bear right now. And I mean, he does have his techniques. I mean, if I was reading his synopsis and digging into him a little bit, and apparently his technique is to wait for the salmon to come to him. And what he did is that he one time ate 42 salmon in one sitting, which is impressive. But despite this impressive and clearly efficient tactic, which has worked for other years, this didn't work for him this year. I mean, he's getting a little bit older. He might, I don't think he is really in the prime of his game right now. And I think that's really being reflected in his performance. Despite being like joint, like elbow, knee deep in the water, his belly, you can see here, like it just barely, it's still up. So that's doesn't bode well. And I will say that she is fluffier. 901, she's a little bit fluffier, but her hair seems pretty short and very similar to 480 Otis's. So I think, we can just see it. Like her belly doesn't hang quite as low either, but we can see in specifically this thigh area here, we can see the way that it just bulges out. We can see her shoulders are absolutely massive. 480 Otis is really just don't stick out that much. And then even in terms of performance, like improvement, I think that 901 did a much better job in terms of improvement overall, whereas 480 Otis, he's had much better performances in the past. Like last year's performance was absolutely incredible. And it's, I don't know. I just don't think that 480 Otis had it in him this year, and so I'm going to vote for 901. I'm really curious to see what the public's going to do. I thought that 151 had a very secure win, so I wouldn't be surprised if Otis's fan base comes through, because he does have a lot of fans, but clearly I need to reserve my judgments of the audience, and I think that this Fat Bear last couple of days have really taught me that my goal here is not to predict what the audience votes for. My goal should be to analyze the bears. So I'm gonna try not to predict I mean, I do have my suspicions, but I don't think that I should be voicing my suspicions necessarily. 480 Otis. I don't know, man. I mean, it's sad to see you go so early, but it is kind of interesting to see that this extreme pattern of his, of either winning or being defeated immediately, has continued. I think that that's a really strange thing to happen. We don't have, again, as I said, we don't have any other bears that do this. So, yeah, that was kind of interesting. But anyways, so 151 Walker and 480 Otis, you know, sad to see you're not going to be continuing in the competition, but I hope that you have a lovely hibernation. So that's it. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.